everybody, and welcome back to Cooking with Kaitlyn. For the month of April, I am making all kinds of breakfast foods for you to enjoy right at home. And today we're going to be making some amazingly delicious cinnamon rolls, so let's get started. Here's what you're going to need. For the cinnamon roll dough, you need 1/4 ounce package of active dry yeast, 1 cup of warm milk, half a cup of white sugar, 1/3 cup of softened butter, 1 teaspoon of salt, 2 eggs, and 4 cups of flour. For the cinnamon roll filling, you're going to need 1 cup of packed brown sugar, 3 tablespoons of cinnamon, and 1 stick of butter. And for the icing, you're going to need 6 tablespoons of butter, 1½ cups of powdered sugar, 1/4 cup of cream cheese, half a teaspoon of vanilla, and 1/8 teaspoon of salt, and some milk. Okay, so the first thing that I did was I went ahead and warmed up my milk, and you do want it to be warm, not hot, because if it's too hot, then it's going to kill the yeast. But we want to make sure that it's about at maybe 100, 110 degrees. Then we're gonna go ahead and put our yeast in there. And then we're gonna stir that up. And we're gonna let that set for about 2 minutes until the yeast bubbles to the top. While we are waiting on that to happen, I'm going to go ahead and mix together my other ingredients. So I've got my 4 cups of flour. Pour that into my bowl. And salt. And sugar. And then I'm going to whisk all of that together before I put in my eggs and my butter. All right, once I've got the dry ingredients all put together there, then I'm gonna go ahead and plop my butter right in. And you're gonna wanna make sure the butter is nice and soft. That's just gonna make it easier for you to mix your dough together versus butter that is straight out of the fridge. That's gonna be really stiff, really hard, and it's gonna take a little while before you can get all those ingredients mixed together. And our 2 eggs. And then now we gotta wait for the yeast to bubble up in our milk, and then once that happens, we'll be ready to pour that in and mix our dough together. So it's hard to see from our camera angles, but we do have our yeast that is floating on the top now, and it's all nice and foamy. So we're gonna go ahead, just pour that into our bowl. And then we're ready to mix it all together. All right, so once you've got it all mixed together, it should look about like this. So you have 1 ball of dough, and then what we're gonna do is we are going to cover this up and set it to the side, and then let the dough rise for about an hour until it has doubled in size. So then the next thing that we are going to do is we are going to make our cinnamon filling for our cinnamon rolls. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take the cinnamon, and this is 3 tablespoons of cinnamon, and just pour that right in there. And my butter, again, you're gonna want your butter to be on the softer side, so that way it will mix very well and very easy. If your butter is fresh out of the fridge, it is way too hard and you're not gonna be able to mix that together very well. All right, and then we're gonna add in brown sugar. All right, so we've got all that in the bowl. We're gonna switch out. We've got our dough hooks on the mixer right now. We're gonna take those off, put on our regular beaters here. Maybe. All right, then we're gonna mix all this together. All right, so then your cinnamon filling should look about like this, where it's gonna be real nice and spreadable once we have our dough. Now, speaking of dough, let's go ahead and check it out real quick and see how it's doing. Oh, it's looking really good. So you can see we've doubled in size. So now what we're gonna do is we are going to put some flour down on our board here and then roll that out. All right, And we're gonna just throw the dough right down here on our board. Boop. All right, and of course you can sprinkle on some more flour. If you realize that the dough is very, very sticky, you can just sprinkle some flour on top of that, and that's gonna help it, again, not stick to your hands, not stick to your board or your rolling pin. So now we're gonna roll this out until it is about 1/4 of an inch thick. And the next thing we're gonna do is take our filling and we're going to put that on top of our dough here. So just gonna grab some of that and spread it all over the dough right there. All right, okay, so once you've got all of the cinnamon spread out, then we're gonna roll it up into one big roll here. And then we're going to just cut off the end here and throw that to the side, throw this end off, throw it to the side. We might make some cinnamon buns with that later. All right, and then we are going to cut it into about 1 inch, 1.5 inch rolls. And we're gonna throw those into a 9 by 13 pan. So now, once you've got them all in the pan, the next thing we have to do is we need to let them rise one more time for about 10 minutes, just so that they have a little bit more time to get that much fluffier, and then they'll be ready to go in a 350-degree oven for about 30 minutes or until they're golden brown. All right, so you can see we cleaned up a little bit and got ready for our next round of making things, but you can see the cinnamon rolls have risen a little bit, so they are ready to go into the oven. So let's go ahead, place them in there. And they're gonna be in there for about 30 minutes. Now, while we are waiting on those to cook, let's go ahead and make our icing for the top. So I already have my butter put into the bowl, and then we're going to add some cream cheese and powdered sugar. Go. All right, then we're gonna grab our mixer and mix all of that together. Now, if you like a really thick frosting on your cinnamon rolls, then that is fine. That is the consistency that we're at right now. However, I like my cinnamon rolls to have a little bit more of a glaze to them, so I'm gonna thin this down a little bit. And in order to do that, what you're gonna do is you're gonna take some milk and you're just gonna add in a couple of teaspoons at a time until it reaches the consistency that you want it to. So let's go ahead and add maybe 4 teaspoons. We'll mix that together. So then, what we're gonna do is just set that to the side, and let's actually check on those cinnamon rolls real quick. I think they are just about ready. Ah, yes, they're looking great. Just nice and golden brown. And put our frosting right on top of those cinnamon rolls. And then serve and enjoy. Cooking with Kaitlyn is sponsored by Hy-Vee. They provided all of the ingredients for today's recipe. And if you want a copy of this recipe, then you can head on out to either the Sunshine or Battlefield location to pick up a printed copy there in the store. And of course, if you try out this recipe for yourself, make sure to reach out on social media and let me know how it goes.